Everyone, welcome to Vlogmas day 21. I'm heaps tired today, I didn't sleep well at all. So I thought maybe we'd hand it over to the ants again. I've actually got to clean out the water in their little moat. So that means I'm going to take them outside. Now when I take them outside, today it's a little bit gloomier, so I don't know how much they'll react, but usually when I take them outside, they freak out and try and hide all their babies. So we'll give it a go and see if they react that way today, despite it not being particularly sunny. So before we take them outside, let's just have a quick look at what they're up to. This is where they have their little nursery, and they don't seem to mind when I turn on the lights in my room. They kind of just stay there. So, my theory is indoor lights, okay, because it's just light, really, and a bit of heat. But when I take them outside, I suspect the UV coming from the sun might be something that they're reacting to. So we'll have a look. I'll just quick try and zoom in because it's a bit hard to focus if I take the camera closer. Yeah, there they are. Working away, looking after the kids. Alright, let's take them outside then. Yeah, so you get the idea. They don't like daylight, kind of like vampires. Anyway, I'm going to wait for them to settle down, and then I'm going to change the water. And then I'll take them back inside, and we'll see what they do. Alrighty, so I've cleaned out all the moldy food, and I also think you guys were right when you said they probably want a bit more space. So what I've done is I added some sand in the top. I don't know how easy that is to focus on. I've added some sand on top. And yeah, you can see they're panicking a bit because it's a change. And then I've also put some plants in to try and make it a little bit more natural. Yeah, there's one bit of dog treat in there that I've left, and I've left that leaf, you know, to give them a bit of something. But yeah, they're panicking a lot. And I really should have done that before cleaning the water, because now I dropped some sand down the side. I'm gonna have to clean the water again. But I think I need to wait for them to chill, so maybe I won't do it today, I'm not sure. But yeah, all the moldy food's gone, so that's good. And when I was picking up the moldy food, they also panicked because, do you see the sphagnum moss? That's this kind of yellowy plant. Yeah, so some of the moldy food was stuck to that, and it turns out right underneath that is where they were hiding all their babies after the sunlight freaked them out. So yeah, they've gone a little bit crazy again because I poked around in that and then put sand on top of them. So I don't know, maybe I should just take this back to my room and let them chill before I try to do anything else, hey? Okay, so it's been about 4 hours and they've calmed down, and as you can see, they've brought their kids back. Not all of them yet. You know, it's taken them a while to get more confident and start bringing all the pupae back. And there's some smaller ones which I don't know if they're larvae or like little egg things. They're probably larvae. But yeah, no, they've started to bring them back to this wall, which I think is really interesting. You know, they hide the things further inside the pile of dirt when they feel threatened, but when things chill out again, they bring them back to the side. I just find that really interesting. What is it about this side? Because previously, they, what's that little one carrying? Looks like it's carrying one of the males. Or is it a different kind of bug? I can't even tell. Yeah, anyway, on the other side of the jar, there's a similar sort of cavity like this. Not quite as big, but they used to keep some babies on that side as well. But, yeah, one of the days where I took them into the sun to, you know, clean things and whatever, they hid everything on the inside, from both sides of the jar. And then when they relaxed again, they brought everything back to this side. So I don't know what it is about this side of the jar, but they really like it. They prefer to have the little babies sort of against the wall rather than on, you know, natural material. It's kind of weird. I know they are keeping some of the babies in the middle, but yeah, I'm sort of curious about why they keep bringing them to the side of the jar. And the fact that they stick to the side of the jar, like, that's interesting to me as well. I mean, one thing I thought is maybe on the inside of the dirt pile it gets a bit too hot or something. Um, I don't really know anything about ants. Um, in that sense, like I know surface level stuff because I sort of got a little bit obsessed with them as a kid. Um, but yeah, when it comes to deeper ant behavioral type stuff, I don't really know. But I know that with bees, bees will actively heat their colonies. I think it's to do with the honey making process, and then, they just prefer that. So they'll heat things up. And, when you have a lot of bodies in a small space, they do generate heat. And there's actually a lot of ants in this little ant farm jar I've got. So, yeah, I kind of wonder if just naturally them existing there is creating a lot of heat, and maybe they don't want their little babies to be quite so heated. Like maybe there's different conditions on the side, against the glass. I don't know. If you happen to know anything about ants and have an answer to that, put it in the comments because I'd be interested. But yeah, no, they've chilled out. As you can see, like there's not so many running on the outside. You occasionally get patrols up along the top. There's one patrolling. But for the most part, yeah, there we go. For the most part, all the action remains in the nursery. How far we can zoom in. So yeah, this is where all the action is. Now, when it comes to food, I think putting sand on top of it is going to make it easier for me to give them food and then take it away before it gets too moldy. Whereas before, when it was getting tangled in the sphagnum moss, I think that was causing them a bit too much distress. So now I can just pluck it off the sand. I don't know that I can lift this tripod any higher. Just give me a moment. Oops. Alright, so see how on top, like, it's relatively flat? I can easily get some chopsticks in there and lift up that little bit of dog treat if I want to. Whereas before I had to kind of, like, stuff around with the sphagnum moss and, it just disturbed everything. Whereas this is easy to pluck off. So I think this will be an easier way to feed them, just putting it on top of this sand. They don't seem to carry things off. Maybe because it's so close to where they actually live, they don't feel the need to. And yeah, I had some sugar on there as before. I think there's still a bit of sugar in there, but the rest, I'm not sure if it's been taken away, or if it's been eaten, or if it's just kind of dissolved into the soggy sand. So yeah, I'm not really sure if they're eating a lot. So anyway, yeah, I think it's working well, and this setup, would just be easier to manage their food. But I'll tell you another story, which happened off camera. As I was watching them, so I actually did clean out the water. I don't know if we can see how clean that is. A bit hard on this angle with the tripod. Because I actually bothered to put it on a tripod, yay! Yeah, no, I cleaned up, I had to wait for them to settle down, so I was doing some gardening work. While I was waiting for that, and just keeping an eye on them. And at one point, I think going around the edge of the tray that I'm keeping them in, the little ceramic tray I'm keeping them in, around the edge I came across this really tiny caterpillar. Now this is even tinier caterpillar. If you remember 10 years ago I did a caterpillar video with this little green caterpillar. Yeah, no, it's smaller than that. This caterpillar was so small, it was probably only the length of an ant when it was stretched out. Dark coloured and very skinny. Like, this is a tiny little caterpillar. Unbelievably tiny. Anyway, so I saw it inching along, because it was one of those caterpillars, like, you know how some caterpillars, they just walk? No, this was one of those caterpillars where it stretches out, and then the bum comes up towards the head, and then it stretches out again. So it's sort of inching along. Instead of walking along, it's doing that movement. You know what I mean, right? It arches its back, brings its bum up towards the front, and then stretches the front out. Yeah, one of those little tiny caterpillars, right? So I see this little caterpillar inching along, and I get one of my chopsticks into its pathway. Took a few goes to actually convince it to climb onto the chopstick, but eventually it did. And then as it's inching along, continuing along, I bring it over to the edge of the glass jar, and I manage to get it to walk onto the glass jar. So then it's in contact with ants, and I sort of watched it for a bit to see what would happen, and an ant passed by it, but didn't really take much notice, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe they won't, maybe they'll leave it alone. But then I turned away for a minute or two, and when I turned back, actually I saw one of the ants holding onto the caterpillar. So it had grabbed it, and this caterpillar was still alive. And then when I was watching that ant holding the caterpillar, it was a little bit hard to see exactly what was going on because it was kind of smothering it, and I could see the caterpillar moving around. So maybe it was a little bit of a struggle, but you know, such a tiny caterpillar, I don't think it stood a chance against the ant. And yeah, after a while, that I changed my angle a little bit, and I could see about half the caterpillar remaining in the ant's jaws. So I think it must have been nibbling on it. And then, yeah, the ant, after that, sort of dragged it back down to the nest. So, when it comes to food, I'm sort of wondering, like, I still don't really know what kind of ants these are. If I don't know if this picture is clear enough, but if you can see what the ants look like now, you know, if you've got a better vision of it, and you can kind of tell what type of ants they are, please let me know, because that'll help me figure out what I should be feeding them. But, yeah, I mean, ants are opportunistic as I understand it, and they'll eat anything if it's available, but they do have preferences. And because that ant caught that caterpillar relatively quickly and, you know, happily chewed on it, I'm sort of thinking maybe these are meat-eating ants. Like, maybe they prefer to eat bugs rather than sugar. So I'm kind of wondering, should I get more bug type things? But, you know, on the other hand, maybe the ant just came across it and was like, ooh, food, I'm gonna grab that. So, you know, they could still be like sugary ones, because there are some other ants in the garden that are all over this tree, and they keep heading up towards the flowers, and I presume for the nectar. So if it's the same species of ant, I mean, it's the other side of the garden, so it could be a different species. But if it's the same, then I would assume they're going for nectar, which is sugary. But, yeah, no, I just wonder if these guys prefer insects, in which case I've got to try and catch insects for them. But I don't know, I'll experiment with that over a few days. I just thought it was kind of interesting. Too bad I didn't get on camera, but it would have been so hard to focus. Yeah, anyway, so these guys are happy. I think in the next few days they might bring back more of their babies to this, this glass area, but we'll see. And it'll be interesting to see how they go with the sand up top and whether they eat anything. Probably now that I can see stuff, it'll be easier for me to figure out what they like to eat. Yeah, and I think that's all I've got for now. I can just see a male running around the glass. If it comes back on the outside, I'm going to catch him and kill him, because I don't want flying ants. But yeah, otherwise, no, for now, I think that's all for today. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, and I will try not to talk about ants, because I'm sure you've had enough for the moment. But yeah, no, today was just an interesting one for me with the ants, because I actually did stuff and changed their habitat a little bit, and you know, mucked with their sense of safety by taking them out into the light. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna go and see if I can catch that male and kill him, because feminism! I'm getting too carried away making fun of feminism, hey. But no. Ants. They're fascinating. I don't know. Okay, so like I will just say one more thing. My dad, I told him the story about the caterpillar, and then he brings in this dead fly, and he's like, do they want to eat this? So he's actually kind of getting into it a little bit, because I think I mentioned before the Gray's family mythology of the ant farm, where they all pitched in money because the oldest one was like, well, it'll be great, and then they got the ant farm and it was kind of crap. But I wonder if that's because they didn't catch enough ants, because my ant colony is looking pretty good. It's actually interesting to watch them. And I think Dad's like, oh yeah, they are kind of interesting. So he's getting into it, which is kind of going against our family's tradition of making fun of ant farms. So, you know, I might be the first in my extended family to have a successful ant farm that's actually interesting to watch. I think it's pretty cool. Just like in the past I've tried to have like ant farms that you buy in the shops, but never been able to catch ants before, probably because I didn't know what I was doing, but also like this ant farm came about completely opportunistically, like I saw them and I grabbed them. So yeah, I think it makes a big difference actually having the ants when you've got an ant farm. Anyway, that's just some more thoughts, and that's it for now. I'll see you tomorrow and try and talk about something different. Good night, everyone. Good night, ants.